What is up, everybody? Happy Friday. It's the Prep Queen, Ariel Epstein, taking you to 6 p.m. Eastern Time here on the Prep Queen Pod. I feel like my screen's a little dirty. Okay, much better. Go Yankees, by the way. I need to tweet out Mid-Major Matt coming on at 5:10 p.m. Eastern Time to talk college football, MLB, and NFL props. Matt also sent out his newsletter this morning. That was very helpful. I just can't believe that we have the WNBA tonight. That's about it. Got no baseball, which I think was a huge scheduling problem. Baseball should have 100% had games tonight. Whatever. NFL, we had a huge Thursday night football game. I can't believe what happened in TNF last night. Los Angeles Rams, 7.5-point favorites. That went from 3.5 to 7.5 with no Brock Purdy. And yet, no Juwan Jennings, no Ricky Pearsall. The Niners end up winning the game outright. Mac Jones looked like he was about to keel over and die on the sidelines. I was very concerned about Mac Jones if he had to go out for another drive. Yet the Rams decide, not only are we going to go for it on 4th down in overtime when it's a chip shot field goal, we're going to run it up the gut against one of the best run Ds in football for the last 3 years. Genius. Fine. I was getting crap online that the Rams went for it because it's better to go for it than to just tie. Sure. Tie's still better than a win technically. I mean, a loss technically, but okay. Why are you running it up the gut with Kyren Williams, who fumbled in the last drive? Makes no sense. The play call made no sense. At least get a little creative. Do something that throws them off their game. But no, you go and run it up the gut and you lose as 7.5-point favorites on your home turf, even though I heard a lot of it was Niners fans yesterday. Fine. But the Rams end up losing as 7.5-point favorites, 23-20. Could have kicked it up, 20, right? 23-20 was the final. But anyway, they lose. Baseball, we all know. The Yankees won last night. It was pure gold. I'm kind of over my whole little rant because now it's just athlete mindset. They win. And now let's move on to the divisional round. I'm over the celebration. It's time to move on to those Blue Jays. Mark's Blue Jays, by the way, who on Monday, I'm going to have on a couple of big Blue Jays fans who I just met at the Yankees-Red Sox series at Yankee Stadium. They came all the way down from Canada to watch the rivalry and maybe scout out the Yankees. I'm excited for this series between the Yankees and the Jays. But first, I want to give credit to where credit's due. Cam Schlittler, absolutely fantastic. I mean, I can't believe, first off, that he threw the game of his career in that big spot against a team that he grew up loving. People on social media were ripping Cam Schlittler, saying that he wasn't ever a real Red Sox fan because he pitched against the Red Sox and won and was happy about it. If anybody knows what it is to have a dream, you would never comment that. Only a loser would comment that. I said it last night on X. My mom always asked me, Iris, she always asked, if the Boston Red Sox called you, the team I hated the most growing up, if they called you and said, hey, Ariel, you want to work with us? We'll pay you to be our reporter or whatever. And this was years ago. I don't want to be a team reporter really anymore. I like my gambling world. But let's just say the Red Sox called and offered me a job. And it was my dream job. I would take it. I hated the Red Sox my whole life. But guess what? I would take it. And then I would end up having to root for the team because they offered me the money. Now, I got very lucky because my team, the Yankees, actually did love me back. You know in the movie Fever Pitch, when they say, you love the Red Sox, but did they ever love you back? And then Jimmy Fallon's sitting there questioning, you're right. They didn't, the way that Drew Barrymore could have. See, the Yankees always loved me back. The Yankees always, they gave me a job. They paid me. They were my first shot out of, when I was in college, they offered me the internship. They've always supported my career. They've always been, it's just, the Yankees have loved me back. I've been very fortunate. But if my rivalry team was the team that did that for me and helped me launch my career, hell yeah, I would go for it because that's what a dream is. The dream gets overridden by your original dream because then you realize the dream could be bigger. It doesn't mean that you're there forever. Who knows? Cam Schlittler could be a Yankee forever. Maybe he's not. Maybe at one point there's a big trade that sends him back to the Red Sox. He's probably very hated in Boston at the moment. If he goes to a Bruins game like he said he's going to, that he's a big Boston fan in Boston sports, then I'm sure he's going to get booed on the big screen. You take advantage of the opportunity. And the Yankees gave Cam Schlittler the opportunity to be a starting pitcher on the New York Yankees, which is his dream. His dream was maybe to be a Red Sox starting pitcher, sure, but his dream was to ultimately be a starting pitcher in Major League Baseball. Not only was he a starting pitcher in Major League Baseball, we're talking about a kid who's 24 years old, started the entire season, the beginning of the season, in the minor leagues for the Somerset Patriots. If you would have told Cam Schlittler in April that he was going to pitch 8 shutout innings against the Boston Red Sox in October, would you do it? On opening day when he was in minors, would you do it? He would say absolutely, because a dream is what matters. I'm looking at Shawn Michael. I didn't see the praise for Scooble or crochet starts. Of course I gave praise. Shawn, hold on. Let's call Shawn out right now. Can we? We're going to call Shawn out. So Shawn Michael likes to give crap. And I write to him yesterday. This is our DMs. I'm going to show you me and Shawn Michael's DMs, who says that I never address him and that I never root for his team. But we're going to call Shawn Michael out right now. Me, yesterday, 6:35 p.m., when the Detroit Tigers clinched my -115 ticket to win the series, I respond to Shawn Michael, let's go. He responds, shake my head, hater. How am I a hater? I'm rooting for your Tigers to cash my -115 ticket, Shawn. This is literally me DMing you. These are our DMs. And I said to him, let's go. I was rooting for his Tigers. So, of course, I was really happy with Tarek Skubal having a great start against Gavin Williams. Gavin and him went toe-to-toe in that game one. It was incredible to watch. In fact, because of my relationship with Gavin Williams, knowing him since he was a freshman in college, I was very excited that Gavin was going toe-to-toe. But I needed the Tigers, and I needed them bad because the Padres clearly suck. They sucked the life out of me, those stupid Padres. In fact, did you guys see the players after the game in the dugout and the managers and everyone going at the umpires because ABS would have worked in that situation when the Padres were mad about the no call that they got in the 9th inning when it should have been bases loaded? Anyway, I knew it was a risk taking the Padres again. I took both teams that lost me money in the past. The Tigers lost me the Central this year. Which is another reason it's weird. Shawn Michael thinks I hate the Tigers. I literally had the Tigers to win the division since the preseason at +360. Of course, I'm pissed that the Tigers blew that. I would have made $1,000. But no. I put money on the Tigers again to win the wild card. And guess what they did? So they made up for it. The Padres, they lost. So I'm glad I didn't put a lot of money on the Padres to win the NL and to win the World Series, but I did bet them to win that wild card series, and they fell flat on their face like they always do. So I was happy about the Skubal start. Garrett Crochet, awesome too. He was absolutely lights out, pitched like an ace. So did Max Fried. We had a lot of really good game ones between pitchers that were either expected to pitch well or not even expected to pitch as well as they did. They did anyway. Fried, Williams, these are all pitchers that went toe-to-toe with Cy Young pitchers. Garrett Crochet, Tarek Skubal, those guys are unbelievable. Pitching was phenomenal. The hitting in the league, big question mark. I could look at any of these teams right now in the divisional round. The Blue Jays have an advantage at home for sure. Their pitchers pitch much better at home. The Seattle Mariners, great pitching staff. Can they hit? I don't know. Same thing goes for the Tigers. Pitching can be great. Can they hit? I'll tell you this, though. The Tigers, I loved watching them play this wild card series. They played small ball, struggled to get on base, no problem at all. They start bunting. They start stealing. That is how the game should be played. So, Shawn, giving you credit where credit's due, your Tigers, they know how to play the game, and they play it a lot. They play it well. But I'm worried about a lot of American League teams hitting. What I'm not worried about is how great the series is going to be between the Phillies and the Dodgers. Our next guest coming on, big Philly guy. He loves his Eagles. He loves the Phillies. But don't get me wrong. He knows it's scary to root for them. Mid-Major Matt joining the show as he always does. Matt, you've got to either be obviously nervous, but it is crazy the NLDS is between the Dodgers and the Phillies. This could have been NLCS material.
Yeah, it could have been a World Series too, because they are the two best teams, arguably. I'm definitely afraid. I have already placed my emotional hedge bet on the Dodgers to win the series. I do have the Dodgers to win the World Series. I took it before the postseason began because I just thought that
What'd you
they
get that at?
was like plus 400, plus 500 or something like that. I got to go back and look. But like, I felt like we weren't talking enough about LA considering they didn't have the regular season that we thought they were going to have, AKA win like 130 games and, blow everyone away. I mean, they were mediocre at times and their pitching was hurt and everything didn't go their way. So like, I'm definitely afraid of it. I think we lose game one. I think we win game two. Split in LA and then lose game 5 at home because that's what the Phillies do.
What is it about the Phillies you don't have faith in?
I mean, look, Sanchez is a really good pitcher, but he's not Zach Wheeler. Like I'm getting used to Christopher Sanchez being the number one guy and then Luzardo at number 2. They're talking about Aaron Nola game 3. By the way, if that happens, take the outs under. I can't imagine him lasting very long in LA. And Aaron Nola shouldn't be starting any games, but they want to use Ranger more as the guy who comes in after the starter to bridge a few innings before the bullpen. I don't trust the bullpen for the most part. And we've seen the Phillies offense in the past. They were terrible in New York against much worse pitchers last year. They were terrible in Arizona the last couple games of that Diamondback series 2 years ago. And then there's the week off. Like the week off is scary. They did have an intra-squad scrimmage yesterday, which, by the way, they sold 30,000 tickets for because Philly's the best. But like that doesn't simulate actual game action here. So like there's just little things here. And then there's just the natural Philadelphia, like everything stinks and like we're going to lose and everything that comes out. So that's kind of the reason why I'm taking LA, who has the great pitching staff, who has 17 aces and 18 great bats. And just, as long as they don't put their bullpen in, I think they'll be fine.
You also mentioned how tomorrow, not only do you like LA, but you like a certain prop in the game.
Yeah, I took the over on Shohei's outs and I swallowed some juice. It's minus 162. It is, but like I can't see him not pitching well in Philadelphia. You've got a team that's cold right now. They're coming off of a week off and everything. And I've watched this team that first game or two after the time off, and it's just the bats go cold and like he can go 90 pitches. Remember, if I'm Dave Roberts, I am not taking my starters out unless they have no gas left in the tank. Like I do not want that bullpen in anywhere near it. And so 14.5, you're asking me to get 5 innings out of Shohei. He threw 5 scoreless against the Phillies in LA earlier this season, like a couple weeks ago. By the way, now on DraftKings, that is all the way up to minus 212. So they're stubbornly keeping the 14.5 out there, but taking more and more bets on it. I don't think they want to go to 15.5 because they know people might take the under there, but minus 212 right now on over 14.5 outs.
Ohtani hasn't pitched since September 23rd. Season high, 6 innings pitched, 91 pitches. Ohtani threw 5 no-hit innings against the Phillies at Chavez Ravine in the start before September 16th. But I get a little worried solely because Dave Roberts is just known for pulling his pitchers early. Like the fact that we didn't see Yoshinobu Yamamoto throw more than 5 innings last year outside of the World Series game against the Yankees, it's crazy.
Yeah, but he had to have seen what his bullpen did. If the leads were smaller in that series, they would have blown at least one game. I mean, the Reds, loaded the bases up and had no outs in 2 innings in that game too. Like their bullpen's really bad. And so unless Shohei has nothing, I can't imagine he doesn't let him go 5 at least.
Okay, I don't hate it. Where do you see the rest of the, let's go AL, ALDS? Any leans there? Any teams that you like? Any props that you would be looking at throughout the series this weekend?
So I'm mad that like some of these teams don't have everything out yet. Like I just saw that Kirby's going game 1 for Seattle and Castillo game 2.
I'd have to think that series, I just went on a show earlier. I said the one ALDS series that I could somewhat be confident is betting unders throughout the Mariners-Tigers series.
Probably, especially first 3s and first 5s,
right?
Because outside of Skubal, we're not going to get the starters very long. And Tyler Holton and Finnegan and Willie Vest, like they're good relievers, but like, are you going to go to them every single night? Now I know that there's some off days programmed in there. The AL goes Friday, Saturday, and has Sunday off. So I think that'll help a little bit, but like, I can't, if I think anything of these starting pitchers, I'm going to go and make first 3 bets. I mean, Mize, we both had the outs over on Mize, and like he barely
Screw
did it.
him.
Yeah, but that's not even his fault. I
I
think that's
know.
more AJ Hinch. Like he walked a guy, and AJ Hinch is like, all right, I'm going to my bullpen. And like, I think Casey Mize could have gotten out of it. That's my thing. Like, if you didn't trust your starting pitcher, and once he had a runner on, like, then why is he starting? Like,
Well,
I just don't get
especially,
that.
I guess it is a little different if you're in an elimination format, but in that case, the Tigers weren't.
Exactly.
And that's
Exactly.
what annoys me. Because
And Mize had only given up 2 hits, 1 hit at the time, whatever it was. Like he hadn't had that much trouble. The only thing that was going against Mize that we might have been in trouble is he threw a lot of pitches in those innings, but like he still was fine.
I wish we could have hit that. It's fine. Now we're at the point where we're going to have to start looking at these unders. Maybe not game 1, but it's funny. I mentioned how Aaron Boone clearly learned his lesson from game 1 and all of the crap he was getting with pulling Max Fried, because you saw not only did he leave Rodon in maybe a little bit longer than people wanted, but you then saw Cam Schlittler, who pitched unreal last night. You saw Aaron Boone ask him, do you want to go out for the 8th? It wasn't as if Aaron Boone pulled him the way he did Max Fried, which is what should have happened. He should have asked Max Fried, do you want to stay in? And it just felt like he didn't give Fried that same option.
Yeah, that's my thing. Like, that's why I didn't play Schlittler's over, because I really wanted to. 4.5 was like, was like gold, but I was worried that the first time he got in trouble, Boone would have pulled him. Now, obviously he didn't really get into trouble, so it didn't really come into play. But like, I'm glad to know that he has a little more faith in the rookie. So going forward, I might look at his outs over or his strikeouts over. Although
Well,
it
I'm
is
definitely
Toronto.
not looking at it for the first game since this one.
Well, and Toronto never strikes out, so that would be a problem.
Boise's asking, any starting pitcher that you would think's worthy of outs overs? I know you just mentioned Ohtani, which is heavily juiced at this point. Who else would you potentially look at?
I mean, here's the thing. If I would potentially do it for the Phillies too. Sanchez is at 17.5. That's a lot. But he did just go 6 innings and didn't pitch great in LA, but he went 6 innings in LA. And that's when they didn't need him to, because they had already clinched the 2 seed. So I think the Phillies, much like the Dodgers, need to keep their starters in as long as possible. This one's interesting. The Freddie Peralta 14.5 is very interesting.
Especially at home.
Especially at home. And he has great numbers against the Cubs, but his last start at home against the Cubs, he only went 4 innings. And if he has the walks issue, then he's definitely not going to go over that. But we've seen he has great numbers against the Brewers. He pitches better at home. He's done really well against the Cubs in the past. So like, this 14.5 is a fascinating number for Peralta, but fresh bullpen and a team that really trusts their bullpen. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. It's minus 157 on DraftKings.
It's minus 150. I'm seeing, okay, hold on. I'm going to pull up props.cash right now, and let's see some of these numbers and analytics from props.cash on Freddie Peralta. These are his home numbers of 14.5. And then I'll look on Pickett too, because Pickett tells you where the best number is. And right now, just looking at those home numbers on Freddie Peralta, that's a lot of green this year. And then you could also look on props.cash at his head-to-head. Going back to the beginning of last year, Freddie Peralta, 3 of those 4 have gone over 14.5 outs. Now you could look to the playoffs. 2020, they didn't make it. Let's see if he has last 10 playoffs. No, nothing on playoffs yet. But still, like, that's a lot of freaking green for 14.5.
It is. And as I said, like, Ian Happ has terrible numbers against him. There's several other Brewers who have
14.5 minus 145 for BetMGM.
I mean, it might be worth it, but like, I mean, he's a volatile pitcher and we know he's got great stuff, but if the walks start happening, like if you're the manager of the Brewers, you're going to have to take him out if he's got the walks issues.
Just thinking of the rest of this starting rotation though in Milwaukee, and if he's your ace, obviously pitchers get pulled in bad situations regardless. So with Peralta at home, where he typically does pitch better, then looking at the Brewers depth chart where you've got Quinn Priester, Chad Patrick, Jacob Misarowski, Jose Quintana's hurt. I mean, Pat Murphy declined to name an NLCS Game 2 starter with Quintana and Quinn Priester both options, but you're looking at Quinn Priester or Quintana, who's been hurt. So, like, you almost have to think that they're going to keep Freddie Peralta in as long as humanly possible in a game 1 best of 5.
Yeah, you would think that, but he's also the type of guy that, I mean, you just look at the correlation between the walks and how long his starts go. Like, the manager seems to have a good idea as to when he's going to break down in terms of not pitch so well. But like, it's tough. It's a tough number because, you know, first game with a fresh pen, you want to yank him as quick as possible. But you're right, because Quintana you don't trust. I think Mizorowski's coming out of the bullpen, and maybe he goes after one of these starts. So if they think 4 innings for Peralta, 3 innings
but
for
why would you want
Mizorowski,
Mizorowski to come after your ace? You'd want Mizorowski to come out after maybe a banged up Quintana or someone else that can't go as far as deep as Freddie Peralta can go.
yeah, I mean, I just feel like they're going to surprise us one of these games. Like Quintana, I'm not taking it. Like if they give us a 14.5 on Quintana, I'm definitely not taking the over. I don't know if I'm taking the under, but I'm definitely not taking the over. And Priester, like, he's so young and he's so deep into his season. Like, this is why I can't trust the Brewers. This is why, like, I kind of lean to the Cubs in this series, because I don't trust. Funny thing is, I don't trust almost any starting pitchers. And like, this one feels like an over series, like on a game to game basis. Like, I just don't trust any starting pitchers on either team right now.
I get it. Peralta 7-2, 2.92 ERA and 16 starts against the Cubs since the start of 2021. 3-1 with a 3.43 ERA and 4 starts against the Cubs this year. He was 3-1 with a 3.43 ERA, 4 starts against the Cubs this year, held them to 1 hit over 6 scoreless innings at Wrigley when he faced them in August. So if there was an over, though, he's 9-1 with a 1.77 ERA and 17 home starts, including a 0.75 ERA across the last 5 at American Family Field. If there was an over tomorrow, I would think it's Freddie Peralta.
I would think so too. I mean, by the numbers, it's just, I mean, it's tough because, you know, I really wish I saw some consistency. Like, oh, he didn't pitch well at Wrigley, but he pitched well at home. His last 2 starts, he pitched better on the road than he did at home against the Cubs. And then he didn't pitch great in Wrigley back in June. So, like, there's no rhyme or reason. This first start in May, he was awesome. So, like, there's no consistency to him. And so I feel like this probably means it's not a great bet, because there's probably something else better out there. Let's remember, we still don't have anything on Seattle. We don't have anything on Detroit. We don't have anything on the Yankees. Who do you think starting game 1 for the Yankees? Heel?
Yeah, I think it's heel. I would rather heel than Will Warren.
So, I mean, like, you're probably looking at an outs under for him because the bullpen will be fresh. And like, he's the type of guy who there's going to be a lot of contact, we know, because Toronto doesn't strike out a lot. So that might be a better bet, potentially, whatever the number might be there.
Well, we'll see what that number is when it comes out. We've got college football coming up. I know that your newsletter went out this morning talking about the games tonight. You'll also have your newsletter going out for tomorrow's games as well. You love doing the buy low situations or the sell high situations. So who are you buying low on this week?
Yeah, the 2 buy lows for this week are not to win their games, but to cover. And I think sometimes people will look at that and say, well, if you're buying low, you think they're going to win. But no, so I'm buying low and the number keeps going down. So the value's certainly disappearing because Florida was at 6.5 and now it's down to 5.5, which is kind of a dead number. But like, I think this is the last hurrah for Florida, coming off a bye week. They should have fired their coach probably, but like, this is the last opportunity for them to play really well before they potentially do fire him and then quit on the rest of the season. I know Texas is coming off the bye week as well, but I'm not a huge Texas person. Like, they've played 3 straight games prior to this against a bunch of nobodies and looked all right in those games. So I'm giving Florida one more chance before their season becomes a disaster. And then one of my favorite mid-majors to bet on as an underdog is Eastern Michigan. Chris Creighton, who I think 2 people in this world know about, is a tremendous underdog against the spread coach when it comes to college football. And they're heading to Buffalo. Eastern Michigan has just 3 turnovers so far this season. It's like 4 or 5 games. And they've scored in every red zone drive this season. And whether it's been touchdowns or field goals, they've scored every time in the red zone. Buffalo's had 2 straight tough losses. They are getting their quarterback back, but I think Eastern Michigan can cover the number here because they don't turn it over and they pay off their drives. Those are 2 things you want from your underdog.
Who are we not buying in on and selling high?
So I really struggled to find somebody to sell high on for this week because not a lot of teams upset last week. And you could sell high on Virginia after the win they had over Florida State last week, but it's 6.5. And I would rather do a money line parlay with Louisville and something else you like. I mean, obviously Penn State, the way they played last week, you could sell high on Alabama, but Alabama's playing Vanderbilt and they lost to Vanderbilt last year. So any sort of hangover or look ahead spots wouldn't apply to them because they lost to Vanderbilt last year. It's one of the most embarrassing losses in college football last year. So I would think they're going to be really focused even after beating Georgia last week.
Two good spots this week, Miami and Florida State. Miami 4.5-point favorites at FSU. Indiana, Oregon, a 2 versus an 8. Oregon laying 8.5. Anything in those big spots?
I mean, you'd be worried normally about Oregon after the huge game last week, going to Happy Valley and winning that game. But I mean, Indiana, like Kurt Cignetti, just, that's a guy you want to go up against. And certainly he's done so much with Indiana. It's funny because like years ago, this would be a nothing game because Indiana's terrible. But now Indiana is a better team. And so it's tough because, and actually, I think you might be looking at next week on Oregon because I don't think they're actually playing this week.
Oh, you're right. October 11th. That's my bad.
But the other game, Miami and Florida State. I mean, Florida State, if they in theory were looking ahead from the Virginia game for this matchup, there could be rain and wind, which I think is a great equalizer. This is a tough game because Miami has played at home this season. Florida State got embarrassed in this game last year. Heck, they got embarrassed by pretty much everybody last year. I'd like to think the Noles show up. It's funny because if the Noles win on Friday night, College Game Day is probably there, and this game gets a whole lot more focus than it does right now. I think Florida State makes it interesting. I don't know if they win, but I'm always scared of a team in their first road game of the season.
I don't blame you there, especially this far into a year to not have played a road game yet.
I do think it's interesting. The game that we probably would have spent a lot of time talking about, but now it's just another game because it's on at noon. You've got Bill Belichick and Dabo playing each other off bye weeks, and no one really cares because Clemson's terrible and North Carolina's terrible. Clemson's a 14-point favorite in Chapel Hill. I'll be fascinated to see what we know. Belichick after a bye in the NFL was a great bet. Like, I feel like there was tremendous numbers against the spread in the NFL, but then again, he would usually play like the Dolphins or the Jets, and they were terrible. But like Belichick off a bye, the problem is he's got college kids now. He doesn't have pro kids. And I don't know if he completely understands how to work with college kids. The thing is, I can't lay 14 with Clemson on the road. Clemson was ridiculous and has been terrible so far this season. So it's just funny. This would have been a spotlight game in most weeks. And now it's just a noon game that everybody will kind of flip over to if something happens between two of the best coaches in America.
I'm excited to see those two go head to head. I agree with you. Now I feel the excitement that could have been with everyone loving Clemson this year going into the season. People felt like it was a slam dunk that Clemson was going to win the ACC. Not looking as much of the case. We have a question from, wrong question. J-Main34. Matt, what you got on Ivy League games tonight?
Oh, gosh. I don't bet the Ivy League. It's like the one thing I don't. I mean, Rhode Island is playing one of the teams. I think it's Rhode Island and Brown tonight is one of the games. Rhode Island's actually pretty good, although they played terribly in their FBS game last week. And I'm always concerned about the FCS team coming off of an FBS game. But plus they're 15.5-point favorites at Brown. I'm not touching either of these two games.
Anything you do like tonight?
So I kind of like the team total over for South Florida. Because South Florida
Adam also was just asking if you like them to cover.
So here's the thing that's interesting. South Florida is playing at North Texas next week. That is a huge game in conference. So I'm kind of worried there. Plus, rain and wind tonight, that kind of ruins passing attacks here. And so I almost would focus on South Florida first half, maybe, as opposed to anything, because I think they start fast. I think they're coming off their bye week as well. So they've had 2 weeks to get ready for a really bad Charlotte team that is not going to be able to do much on offense. The interesting thing tonight, Delaware, in their very first year as an FBS team, is hosting Western Kentucky, who is widely considered the favorite to win Conference USA. And Delaware is favored tonight in this game. It's crazy. It's probably warranted. Delaware's been very good so far this season. The other thing that's interesting, West Virginia's at BYU. West Virginia has a ton of injuries, and they're starting a redshirt freshman tonight in BYU. Could be very ugly for West Virginia, especially since they're a fast-paced team under Rich Rodriguez. BYU could have a lot of opportunities to score tonight if West Virginia keeps going 3 and out and putting a tired defense out there against BYU.
Anything on San Diego State?
San Diego State's offense is brutal. They are really bad. They run a Aztec fast offense. Basically what happens is the Kent State coach has come over from Kent State to San Diego State. They ran the flash fast offense at Kent State because they're the Kent State Flashes. So now he runs the Aztec fast, but the problem is they stink at it. They're not very good. Their quarterback is mediocre. Problem is Colorado State's probably worse, and San Diego State only has a really good defense, so they're the only legit unit of all 4 units that are going to play in this game tonight. So the only thing I'd probably look at is either the Colorado State team total under, or I would do a San Diego State money line with something else you might like tonight. Or pair it off with a baseball bet tomorrow or a money line that you might like tomorrow in college football. But I don't know if I could trust San Diego State to cover. I do think they'll win tonight. So find something else that you kind of like and pair it off that way.
NFL, big slate on Sunday. I just started to really carve through the slate. I've been very busy this week. Anything stand out to you from a prop perspective to take advantage of?
So I don't know if I can actually do this. So I posted on my Twitter account. I have a fantasy football decision to make because I had Lamar and Burrow in a 2-quarterback league. So I was
that's great.
pretty. Yeah.
You're really thriving.
It's really thriving. So I managed to get Dak. So I have him, but I need to stream my second quarterback. And there's a small part of me that wants to go daredevil and take Jake Browning. DJ Reed is out for the Lions. I think Terrion Arnold is either out or bad as their other corner. But the problem is Jake Browning did nothing in Denver. And I wonder if that was game plan because they were scared of Denver's defense. But like Detroit's secondary is really injured right now. And I think they can take advantage of it. Some guy named Jamar Chase and T Higgins, like they're pretty good wide receivers, but I don't know if I could do that. Then I was considering Bryce Young because Miami's defense is terrible, but it's Bryce Young. And then I was thinking of Sam Darnold because Tampa Bay is a pass funnel defense. Mm-hmm. So like, but I don't know if I could trust Sam Darnold. So like, I don't know. I don't know what happened. I really
at least Sam Darnold's a favorite.
He is a favorite, and there should be a lot.
The other 2 are dogs, which helps or hurts based on throwing the football, but not as if Seattle is a ginormous favorite. You're right with the passing attack. I'm looking at a lot of different things, whether it's taking advantage of the pass catching backs out of Seattle, Sam Darnold, being able to run a bit outside the pocket because the Bucs have not really done great in containing quarterbacks. I don't know.
So thank you, Sean. I thought that Terrion Arnold, because I read a bunch of primer type articles, and so they were pointing out that Terrion Arnold hasn't had a good season so far. That's why he's exploitable. But I don't know if Jake Browning doesn't have time in the pocket to throw, then it's going to be a disaster because Hutchinson and all those guys will sack him. By the way, thanks for Zadarius Smith. He fits in so beautifully in Philadelphia. I'm glad you guys let him go. But yeah, I really want to go Jake Browning, but I don't think I'm 0-3 or 0-4. I'm 0-3. I haven't won yet this year because I've had so many injuries, but
just pack it up, Matt. Pack it up. Go to the sports book, bet some props. You're way better at that. Come on.
By the way, so the Eagles, tough game this weekend against Denver, but I think they're going to win. The problem is I have to figure out which half they're going to play in. I think that Devontae Smith is going to benefit because you would figure Surtain's going to shadow A.J. Brown, which will annoy the crap out of him. But like you figure Surtain, who has shadowed the number 1 wide receiver, you think that's going to continue. Plus, Jalen Hurts against teams that play man, he runs a lot too. So I think that his rushing yards could be in play unless they change up their style of defense. But like they play man exclusively, it feels like. So I think Jalen Hurts rushing could come into play, and I think Devontae Smith could have a huge game as well.
Rushing's 39.5. Jalen Hurts. He does run more at home. I would never fade a Jalen Hurts rushing yard prop at home. The difference is Denver's allowed the least rushing yards per game to quarterbacks this year. And obviously that's a matter of who you play and whatnot. It's only 5 weeks into the year. Denver still has a pretty good pass rush.
Maybe it's his rushes. Because he gets the tush push and that's a yard, but that's a cheap rush. And if they win, he gets knees at the end. I don't know, maybe his rushes is better, but like if they go man, he's going to run a lot because that's just kind of what the Eagles do. Goddard could be busy too. I haven't seen how Denver does against tight ends, but like Goddard has gotten a lot of short receptions lately. But yeah, I think Jalen Hurts could have a decent day on the ground against a team that plays a lot of man defense.
Adam wants to know if we like the Raiders plus 6.5 at Indy.
So it's funny. I have 5 survivor entries in this pool that I'm in. I do it with a friend. She pays the money and I give her the picks, ideally. So we did 2 on the Rams, unfortunately, which I'm still not over. Like Sean McVay voted against the tush push, and yet if he had tush pushed on 4th and 1, they probably would have won the game, but whatever. I'm over it. I'm not taking the Colts this weekend. I think the Raiders are going to win. I don't know. Like I just want to believe the Colts aren't for real. And the Raiders scare me and the Titans scare me against Arizona. Like Arizona was so bad in that game last Thursday. Those are the 2 teams that everybody's going to take. I think one of them's going to lose. So I broke my other rule and I took the Lions. I hate taking road teams in Survivor, but I think I have to take the Lions in this one.
Yeah, it was a really tough Survivor week. And I guess you just kind of answered it. Craig Abel said, what's your biggest surprise for Sunday?
I think the Raiders beat the Colts.
That kind of helps one of the props that I'm going to talk about in just a little bit for Prop Queen edges. Sports Guru said about Q, since you're wearing the sweatshirt, under 26 points.
Oh God, Ricky Collins. That was tough to watch. Now, on one hand, it was awesome to watch because I gave out the Duke over 6.5 wins for the win total, and I actually hadn't counted them to win in Syracuse, so that was a positive for us who bet on it. So I was sad, but like not that sad. The problem is SMU's defense is not great. I mean, they shut down 2 offenses they're supposed to in East Texas A&M and Missouri State, and they didn't against Baylor and TCU. And they've had 2 weeks, so their defense is presumably going to be healthy. There is no look-ahead spot. And is it really that high? Is it like, is it really 26 points? If it's 26, I probably would take the under. I don't know if we're going to score 26 points in a game the rest of the season, but I can't imagine. Let me look on DraftKings while we're sitting here. There's no way that can't be right. If that's the number you're getting, definitely take the under because I just don't trust our offense the rest of the season to score that many points, especially on the road like that.
Well, let me know. And then
no, it is not 26. It's 19 and a half, or at least it's what 19 and a half on DraftKings.
Okay. Under?
Well, so here's what you can do. You can go up to 20 and a half, and under 20 and a half is minus 130. And that gives you at least the field goal protection if there's 2 field goals and 2 touchdowns. So here's the quick lesson. Can I do a quick lesson here?
Yeah.
So one of my favorite things to bet on is touchdowns. I love the touchdowns market. It's on DraftKings. I think there's another book that does the touchdowns market, but there's inequalities that you can take advantage of. So James Madison. In college and in pros and in the pros. You could almost use this in the pros too. So James Madison's playing at Georgia State on Saturday, and they figure to score a lot of points. If you look at the touchdowns market, which ironically we can't bet on in Virginia, but there's places I can see it, over 4.5 touchdowns is what they're offering. So by doing the math, that's 35 points. That means 5 touchdowns. Their team total is actually 37.5. Now, unless they're going to kick a lot of field goals, which they certainly could, you're getting potentially better value in the touchdowns market than you are the team total market. So that's something to kind of look at, especially for those teams that pay off their red zone trips with touchdowns. Look at the touchdowns market and see how much of a difference it is between that and the team totals market. And if the juice is better there, take that instead and then just hope for touchdowns, and you'll probably win that bet.
We love life lessons from Mid-Major Matt. And guys, you can find all of this information that Matt provides all the time in his newsletter, the Mid-Major Matt newsletter. He's done a lot of stuff for college football. He gives out 3 different ones at least per week where you can get all this information that he broke down for us on the college football slate for yesterday, today, tomorrow. We've got it all covered. Go to thepropqueen.com, subscribe for like $6 to get Mid-Major Matt and all the information on the website. Matt, thank you so much, as always, for coming on the show. Thanks for repping our Syracuse Orange, even though they are a disaster. We will see you again on Monday.
Good luck to your Yankees. Hopefully you're up 2-0 and I'm up 1-0 by the time we talk again.
Yes, and that we're up in our bank accounts.
Yes, that as well.
See you, Matt. Time for the Prop Queen edges. But first, I know that some of you do like to bet on the WNBA, so let's get to propaganda. These are the most bet on props according to BetMGM for the WNBA slate tonight. We've got Aja Wilson over 11.5 rebounds, Satu Sablé under 1.5 made threes, Jackie Young over 22.5 points and assists, Wilson over 26.5 points, Jackie Young over 16.5 points. If you want more action on tonight's game 1 of the WNBA finals, then you can go to the YouTube channel Prop Queen Sports, Prop Queen Media, and you could see our segment that we had with Coach James Young on Wednesday. He broke down all his favorite sides. He broke down his favorite props. I know that Coach likes the Mercury to upset the Aces in the WNBA finals, so he likes the dog here. So these are the most bet on props. If you are a fade the public type, then you could be looking to fade Wilson, Young, Satu Sablé tonight in the WNBA finals. Again, go to the YouTube page and make sure to check out Coach Young's segment here from the show on Wednesday. So now we've got the Prop Queen edges going into this weekend's MLB and NFL card. I'll do a bunch of NFL, and I'm going to utilize props.cash for it. I should have just tweeted out that I'm going to use props.cash, but here we are. Props.cash helps a ton for all this stuff. I don't have necessarily best bets just yet for Sunday. I have been very behind because of the Jewish holiday yesterday, but I'm going to show you some things that I did like so far early on props.cash that caught my eye, and they also had some good numbers going into this weekend when it comes to the defense that they're up against as well. Let's get off MLB for a sec, and I'll go through some MLB stuff as well for you guys to get a good handle on. I'm going to start with the game that we've been talking about in the chat. We're going to talk Colts and Raiders. Daniel Jones, but I'm not going in the air. I'm going to the ground. So, Yankees game announced for 8 p.m. on Tuesday. Perfect. I'm going to the game, obviously. So when you look to Daniel Jones over his rush attempts, and I think I'm showing the screen, right? Yep. Okay. Daniel Jones over rush attempts. He went over in both home games so far. 6 and 7 rush attempts at home. Colts are at home. Caleb Williams just had 8. Marcus Mariota just had 6. Justin Herbert had 9. Drake May had 4. Daniel Jones likes to run. And even though up here it says, now it says minus 104. I saw like minus 1/3, plus 108 actually earlier. Vegas is tied for the 4th most rush attempts per game allowed to quarterbacks at just under 7 rush attempts per game. I know the last 2, look, 4 and 1. Those are much better. Well, not Tennessee really, but that's just a bad team in general. The Rams are definitely more of a tough front 7 to do that against. Was it the Rams or the Chargers that they played? It only says LA. Gosh, I'm so bad. Daniel Jones. But yeah, at home, his number, it's the Rams. Okay, I was second guessing myself there. But at home, where he's had 6 and 7 so far this season, I have no issue with taking that in plus money at plus 108 where I saw it earlier. I know Pickett said somewhere that it was plus 108. So Daniel Jones over his rush attempts against the Vegas team that's been terrible at containing these quarterbacks. Let's see, what else did I like? Alvin Kamara. He was another name that I wanted to look at. I'm going to go through like all these different games. So in the Saints-Giants game, Alvin Kamara over rushing yards. I know it hasn't been that profitable this year, but the Giants have allowed the 4th most rushing yards per game to running backs. And when you look at the running backs this season on props.cash, running backs, look at this. Omarion Hampton over 70.5 with 128. Kareem Hunt over 29.5 with 34. Pacheco goes over. Javonte Williams goes over. Jacoby Krosky Merritt over. Most of these running backs doubled their rushing yard prop. And we're talking RB1s. We're not even talking like Eckler was kind of as a backup. Sanders is a backup, like second string, whatever you want to call them. These running backs, these number ones, have like doubled essentially their numbers. So you could look to Alvin Kamara to have a bigger game this weekend up against the Giants D. And that line flipped. That line went from the Giants at -1.5 to now the Saints -1.5. They're home in New Orleans. The Giants also allow a lot of pass attempts and completions per game. But I'm going to go Kamara here. I do like Kamara in this spot against a team like the Giants that has struggled the last few years against the run. What else? Justin Fields. I don't think I trust him enough, but meh. Breece Hall was the other one. I know that I've been talking about Breece Hall a lot this year. He just continues to have these great matchups against defenses that struggle against pass-catching backs. Look at that. 3 of the 4 games for Breece Hall have gone over 30 yards for his receiving yards. It already went up from 25.5 to 26.5. And when you look at the running backs this season, 80%. So that's 4 of the 5 running backs to go up against this Dallas defense have gone over their receiving yards prop. I'm just a little nervous to do Breece Hall because I've done it a bunch. Yeah, Kamara over rush receiving I would do too. But I'm just very nervous about Breece Hall again. Like I keep hitting the over on Breece Hall and I feel like I have to lose at some point. So I am very nervous. Just going to put that out there. Jets allow the most rush attempts per game. Javonte Williams, we could take a look at real quick. Javonte Williams, rush attempts. When Dallas is on the road, both have gone under on the road, which is a little bit scary. So I'm not a huge fan of that one. I know with Matt, we just talked about the Jalen Hurts rushing yards, 39.5. Denver's allowed the least rushing yards per game to quarterbacks, but I will not be fading Hurts at home. If that was in Denver, I would 100% fade the Hurts rushing yards, but he rushes a lot more when he's at home. Evan Ingram's an interesting under as well, but I always lose on it, but we could take a look. I always end up losing on Evan Ingram. He's very annoying. It's a very low number. But the Eagles have been a top 5 defense against tight ends for the last 2 years. Looking at his history, 2 of 4. Let's see, 2025. Ingram, only 1 game's gone over so far in 2025. And that was a home game. 2024. Oof. Yeah. I don't know. I always lose on Evan Ingram, but I'm just telling you, it's always something I do when a number feels high. This number, 24.5, a little too low for me on Ingram to take an under. But just so you know, the Eagles are very good against tight ends. Rico Dowdle. I'm actually shocked this number hasn't gone up more from 15.5 because Chuba Hubbard is going to be out this week for the Carolina Panthers. I was looking at Dowdle. It went up from 13.5 to 15.5, so it still went up. These numbers are deceiving because obviously you've had Chuba Hubbard in there. But you're getting a defense in the Miami Dolphins who have allowed the 4th most receiving yards per game to running backs. They average 53 a game, and there's no split backfield here for Miami. I don't know what you guys are saying in the chat. Sorry, I'm really not paying attention in the chat. So I would be looking at Rico Dowdle in a good little by low situation. No one's really talking about him, but he is a pass-catching back. He was a pass-catching back in Dallas. Now he's getting a Miami D that's been terrible against pass-catching backs. I would look to Dowdle this week for Carolina. I would look to Tommy Tremble this week, over 27.5 receiving yards. Miami allows the most receiving yards per game to tight ends. So that's another spot that I would definitely consider. Carolina's actually allowed the 5th least completions per game to quarterbacks at 18, so 22.5 is a bit high for Tua. We could look at Tua completions, especially now that Tyreek Hill is out. Completions. Tua. So Tua on the road, 1-1. Last year, Tua on the road, 3 of 4 went over. Anything against Carolina, 1-1. So it's kind of split. But when you look at quarterbacks this year, so far, no quarterback. You see this? No quarterback has gone over their completions this year against the Miami Dolphins. Against the Carolina Panthers. Interesting. 0 against the Panthers have gone over their completions. Just saying, is he going to be able to go over his completions this week with his number 1 wide receiver out for the first time? Waller stats I like too. So we could look to Darren Waller. over 28.5 receiving yards. Carolina allows the second most receiving yards per game to tight ends. And I do a lot more of a deep dive into this in the newsletter. I'm just going through this with you guys now. So not much from Waller yet, obviously this year, and nothing last year. But tight ends, and I don't know if we'll be able to we don't really have a good sense of what Darren Waller could do in Miami without Tyreek Hill. We don't really have the numbers. This season, 3 of the 5 to face Carolina have gone over. Austin Hooper went over, Trey McBride went over, and Strange went over. Pitts and Henry did not. Very close, though, there on Henry. 39.5 falls to 39. Depends on where you get the number. I just don't feel like we have enough sample size on Darren Waller. But I don't hate it just because of the matchup. And if, like you guys are saying, the only option. I don't hate it. I'm just saying I don't love betting things without numbers to back it up, if that makes sense. But you can go that route for sure. Carolina's been very bad against tight ends. 71 yards a game allowed to the Carolina Panthers. The Carolina Panthers allowed to tight ends this year. Let's talk about my Ravens and how banged up they are and how no one's playing. It's going to be so fun. I guess I should just pull up the injury report. Let me see. Ravens injury report. Let's just look at how bad it is, because I saw Thursdays, which was horrible. But there was a recent injury report that came out that all the NFL reporters were like, oof, that's bad. Let's see. Can I find it? Okay, no, I can't find it aside for yesterday. Oh, no, game status versus the Texans. Here we go. Let's look at how miserable Ariel could be. Thank goodness the Yankees won, because I can't have any faith in my Ravens right now. Look at the Ravens injury report. Oof! Awuzi's out. Marlon Humphrey's out. Lamar Jackson's out. Patrick Ricard out. Roquan Smith out. Anyone else that... I mean, it was pretty of note that Kyle Van Noy was a full participant. Thank goodness. At least that's somebody. But gosh, this is terrible. So with the loss of Roquan Smith, the way that I would look at it is Dalton Schultz, the Texans tight end. And we could pull up some Dalton Schultz numbers because we know we have them with Schultz up against the Ravens, the playoffs, etc. So Dalton Schultz, receiving yards. So the one in the playoffs, he had 43. Last year against the Ravens, he only had a 21-yard game. But again, that was at the end of the year when the Ravens defense was clicking on all cylinders. 2025, 3 straight weeks. That's a little scary that we're at 28.5, but that's right around the range here, 29, 39, 30, 28 right there. So it's a good number. A little scary that he went over 3 straight. Let's look away. So the road numbers weren't great early on last year. He got better down the stretch. Same thing here. The Ravens have been terrible against tight ends. And with Roquan Smith out, that middle of the field is brutal. And you don't have Marlon Humphrey either. So you're going to have your DBs play back to make up for Marlon and not be able to come up the way that, I mean, sometimes, let's see, Ravens depth chart. Let's see who's in the Ravens defense right now. Sometimes you get Kyle Hamilton who will play up. He's questionable, but it looks like he'll play. Awuzi's out, so that's another corner down. Humphrey's out, another corner down. So I assume Kyle Hamilton's going to have to play back more because you're going to have a lot of your DBs out. That leaves Kyle Van Noy to put pressure on the quarterback. But if he's going to get the ball out of his hands quickly, I'm trying to think of who's in the middle of the field with Roquan out, and it's really nobody except Odafe Owe. That middle of the field is going to be brutal. So it wouldn't shock me at all if you saw C.J. Stroud go to his tight end enough, because that's how the Chiefs always beat the Ravens, is cutting up that defense in the middle of the field. It just scares me. He's gone over this prop multiple times, and now it's dropped from 31.5 to 28.5. That's a little fishy. It wouldn't surprise me too. You guys were mentioning Nico Collins in the chat. Over a longest reception could be very enticing. Also looking at the running backs, Woody Marks. His rushing yards, the Ravens allowed the 5th most rushing yards per game, but they kind of got Kyle Van Noy back, which kind of helps a little bit. You could look to Woody Marks over 2.5 receptions, over 15.5 receiving yards. The receiving yards intrigued me. Let's look at Woody Marks. Woody Marks, running back for Houston, 2025. Recently, he just had a 50-yard receiving game. That's crazy. 2 of 3 went over. So to drop to 17.5 from 50, whatever, but still. See? They're going to cut. You have to cut up the middle of the field on the Ravens. So I would say look to pass catching backs, look to the tight end, look to a longest reception prop. I don't like receiving yard props because you're still going to have someone like you'll have Nate out there. You'll have Nate Wiggins out there. Malachi Starks, free safety. Kyle Hamilton. So the safeties are still there, but there's still going to be a deep ball or so allowed. Those would be the plays that I would make on the Houston Texans, taking advantage of the Ravens' banged up team. The other thing I would look at real quick is the the Seattle-Tampa game. I was talking about it with Mid-Major Matt. I would go and look at either of the pass-catching backs out of Seattle. And I was going to take a look at that actually right now with which one does better at home in the passing game. So Kenneth Walker is actually dropped. I saw 10.5 earlier. So if it's 9.5, it's dropping. 2024 at home, let's just see. He did great at home. Struggled more on the road. So those are great home numbers overall. And 3 straight, it's gone over for Kenneth Walker. Let's look at Charbonnet. Charbonnet, 2024. Woo! Look at that. At home. Woo! 2025, not so great yet. Tampa Bay, nothing. I don't know. Charbonnet is pretty freaking intriguing. We've seen that they've gone to him. It's 8.5. Against a team like Tampa, who's allowed the second most receiving yards per game to running backs. 61 receiving yards a game allowed to running backs. So you could take a look over there at Charbonnet as an underrated play, or Kenneth Walker over receiving yards for the Seattle Seahawks against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Cade Otton also could be a good Tampa Bay Buccaneers prop. 2.5 receptions was minus 135. Seattle's allowed the most receptions per game to tight ends. Let's look at Cade Otton. Oop, I said Cotton. Otton. So Cade Otton on the road. 1 of 2 this year. Meh. He's always a tough one. Cade Otton's always a tough get, but 2022, 35-yard game. Receptions. I kind of like the receptions the most. 2 of 4 this year. On the road last year. Meh. 3 reception game he's coming off of. It's only 2.5 minus 135. Seattle, the most receptions per game allowed to tight ends this year. Definitely something to take a look at. Sean Michael, do we trust Jared Goff on the road to go over this very low, very sketchy number of 227.5? I hit Goff over his passing touchdowns the other week. I just hate it more on the road. Goff when he's at home, slam dunk. But this number, I don't know why I have 227, but this says 238. What does Pickett have? Pickett. Let's go. Stop screen. Share screen. Right, but Goff's on the road. That's the problem. NFL. Let's see the best number. This is the thing I love about Pickett. Pickett has the best number. It tells you exactly where all the best numbers are in the market. So we're going to go to odds. We're going to go to player props. We're going to go to passing. Jared Goff, passing yard prop. So the best number you could get on the over right now is 229.5 over at DraftKings, minus 138 for Jared Goff. Props.cash is putting this at 238.5. So let's drop this down to 228.5. Under in both games this year. 3 of 4 have gone under. Away last year wasn't horrible. But then you have to look at, yeah, Pickett's really helpful with getting you the best number for sure. Stop screen. Oh, it's 6 o'clock already. Oh my goodness. My brother's going to be home from college any minute. Okay, this is the last NFL game we'll go through, and then I'll have more a little bit on Sunday and in the newsletter. This number's just sneaky low on Jared Goff. That's my concern. 3 of 4 quarterbacks have gone over their passing yards prop when facing the Cincinnati Bengals. So why is this number 228? Sketchy, 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 sketchy. So Jared Goff overs, you could look at that. You could look over 1.5 passing touchdowns. Cincinnati tied for third most passing touchdowns allowed. Jahmyr Gibbs over 15.5 rushing attempts or over rushing yards. It's a bit high, but Cincinnati second most rush attempts and rushing yards allowed to running backs. Cincinnati fourth most receptions per game allowed to tight end. Sam Laporta 3.5. Another thing that you could look at. Major League Baseball, let's go through it real quick. I've got a few stats that you guys could deem useful, and I'll put them in the propqueen.com newsletter, which you could subscribe to. Premium subscribers, $17.99, basic, $8.99 over at thepropqueen.com. I'll put all this in the newsletter, send it out tomorrow morning so you guys have it for Major League Baseball games, which start at 2 p.m. Eastern time. Stop sharing. Let's see. The Cubs won 7 of 13 against the Brewers in the regular season. They split their 6 meetings in Milwaukee, although the Cubs won 3 of 5 at Wrigley when they last met in August. It's the first time that the Cubs and Brewers have met in the postseason. I mentioned this with Mid-Major Matt. Freddie Peralta has been incredible. Against the Cubs, he's 7-2, 2.92 ERA in 16 starts against the Cubs since 2021, 3-1 with a 3.43 in 4 starts this year against the Cubs. Peralta went 9-1 with a 1.77 ERA in 17 home starts this year. And in his last 5 starts in Milwaukee, 0.75. If you want to go outs over, be my guest. Peralta held opponents to a 135 average with runners in scoring position. That's the lowest in Major League Baseball this season. The Cubs aren't in Wrigley anymore. This is in Milwaukee. I know that American Family Field can be a hitter's park as well, but I know that Peralta pitches well at home, and when you've got a bunch of pitchers banged up after you, Quintana, some young guys, you want to make sure to save that pen. And I think that the Brewers are going to want to keep Peralta in as long as possible, and you just got to hope that your ace produces in a game 1. I know the Cubs aren't rusty. They just played a wild card series. It says Mizorowski expected to be in relief this series, but I can't imagine you want Mizorowski to come in relief for your ace. So I would go over outs potentially there for the Brewers ace, Peralta tomorrow in the afternoon. And I'll just look real quickly at props.cash because it is an afternoon game. So let's see how Peralta does in afternoon games this year. At home in the day, Peralta has gone over in 8 of 10 games at home in the day of his outs prop. So that would probably be the play that I'm going to do tomorrow is Freddie Peralta over his outs, 14.5. Yankees, Blue Jays. Yankees, Blue Jays, you've got probably Luis Gil up against Kevin Gausman, but we know it's Kevin Gausman tomorrow. Toronto seeking its first postseason victory since Game 4 of the 2016 ALCS. Their 7-game postseason skid is tied for the 3rd longest streak behind the Orioles and the Reds. The Yankees and Jays have combined to reach the postseason 39 times with 9 World Series championships since the Jays entered the American League in 1977, but it's the first time they're ever going to meet in the postseason. Yankees were 44-37 on the road, second best in MLB, but the Yankees have lost 6 of their 7 games in Toronto this year, while Toronto is 54-27 in their home games, second best behind Philadelphia. We're obviously going to know more once we know who the Yankees announce as their starter. Again, I would think it's Luis Gil. Let's see. Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge is hitting .354 with 6 home runs lifetime against Kevin Gausman, the most he's hit off any pitcher. He's 1 for 13 with only a hit being a home run against Shane Bieber, by the way. So when Bieber comes in, you know to fade Judge, potentially. But against Gausman, just saying. Judge is hitting .419 with 6 home runs, 17 runs scored, 15 ribbies in his last 19 games against the Jays dating back to June of 2024. Judge has just been bad in the postseason. Giancarlo Stanton is hitting .108 with 2 home runs over his past 8 postseason games, 1 for 11 against Boston. There's no official word on Bo Bichette's availability. He hasn't started running yet. It's a stretch for him to be available this weekend, according to John Schneider, the manager. And Chris Bassett, who has a back injury, could potentially return and be available for the ALDS. Vladdy Guerrero is homerless in his last 21 games, but he's hitting .414 with 15 extra base hits, 23 ribbies, and 16 runs in his last 22 games against the Yankees. Again, that runs scored market and that RBI market are very underrated in Major League Baseball. We hit it with Ohtani in Game 1, and you never got that number back. So if you want a number on Vladdy, it's not necessarily home runs. It's not necessarily total bases. Maybe it's RBIs. Maybe it's runs scored. You typically get a decent number in those markets, especially for players that you wouldn't necessarily think like runs scored. You think home runs for Vladdy. No. We could definitely look there. I'm trying to see what else I know it's on the chat. I'm looking at the chat. Kelly's not in Vegas this weekend. She is at a wedding for her boyfriend's sister. So no, she's not in Vegas. Dodgers, Phillies. It's the 6th time that they're meeting in the postseason. Each of the prior 5 came in the NLCS. Philly won 4 of 6 regular season meetings, 2 of 3 in LA. Let's see. The Phillies went an MLB best 55-26 at home in the regular season. They've won 13 of 18 home postseason games since the start of 2022. Shohei Ohtani makes his postseason pitching debut. He enters the postseason on a 16 2/3 scoreless inning streak dating back to August 27. Ohtani becomes the first player to start as a pitcher and position player in a single postseason. He's hitting 11 home runs, 18 ribbies, slugging .815 in his last 21 games. Kyle Schwarber led the NL in both homers and ribbies, beating Ohtani by a single home run, but he's on an 0-14 at-bat skid with 8 Ks. Schwarber's 21 postseason home runs, 4th all time. Ohtani threw 5 no-hit innings against the Phillies at Chavez Ravine to start before September 16th. The Phillies have won 5 of Sanchez's last 6 starts, 2-0, 1.59 ERA. He's pending free agent. Sanchez threw 5 2/3 scoreless innings with just 2 hits allowed and an extra inning win over the Twins in the regular season finale. He's allowed just 2 home runs in 71 1/3 innings since August 1st, which is crazy now having to get the Los Angeles Dodgers. Sanchez hasn't lost at Citizens Bank Park since He hasn't lost at Citizens Bank Park since July 31st, 2024. That was a year and a half ago that Sanchez last lost at home. He's 7-0 with a flat 2 ERA in 21 starts there, including the postseason. 19-2, the Phillies are with Sanchez on the mound in Philly. That's crazy. The Phillies won all 4 of Sanchez's career starts against LA, despite his 4.01 ERA. Sanchez gave up 8 runs in a 12 2/3 innings across 2 starts against the Dodgers. Teoscar Hernandez hitting .417 for LA with 2 homers in his career against Sanchez. He led all Dodgers with 6 ribbies in the wild card series. He did have an error, though. So let's see. Yeah, those would be the plays. You look to Sanchez maybe over his outs. You could look to him under earned runs allowed at home since he's been great at home. Maybe you want Sanchez to get the win. You could get some value there. Teoscar Hernandez has been crushing it against Sanchez. Lefty numbers. Those splits are great. Ribbies for Hernandez maybe you could look at as well. Mid-Major Matt said he liked the Ohtani outs over. I don't love it because I get nervous about Dave Roberts pulling pitchers, but again, their bullpen sucks. Tigers, Mariners. We know George Kirby. I don't think we know who Detroit's starting yet, do we, Sean Michael? I know George Kirby for the Mariners. Let's see. Mariners won 4 of 6 against the Tigers this year. After Detroit won the first 2, the Mariners won the next 4. They outscored the Tigers, Mariners 45-29 overall. It's kind of crazy since you don't identify the Mariners as offensive. The Mariners finished the regular season sweeping the Dodgers last weekend. They were one of the hottest teams down the stretch, winning 17 of their 18, averaging the Mariners just under 7 runs a game in that span. Seattle seeking their first home playoff victory since October of 2001. Nuts. Let's see. Cal Raleigh hit 3 home runs against the Tigers this year. hit .316 with 7 homers, 5 doubles, 12 ribbies, and 15 runs over his last 15 games. It's crazy. Josh Naylor finished the season with hits in 17 of his final 19 games, including each of his last 12. He hit .397 with 9 extra base hits, 4 homers, 19 ribbies in that 19-game stretch. Julio Rodriguez hitting .364, 2 doubles, a triple, 3 home runs. Randy Arozarena hitting .320, 3 doubles, 3 home runs against the Tigers this year. So J-Rod, Arozarena, they have hit well against the Tigers. Let's see. Riley Green hitting .417 with 2 doubles, a triple, and 4 home runs in 6 games against the Mariners. He had a hit in all 3 wildcard games, 4 for 11 with 2 doubles. Spencer Torkelson had an RBI single in the clincher, but he's just hitting .143 with 18 strikeouts in his last 9 games. So those are some things to look at for going into this weekend, which is giving you guys some good info. Sean left. It's past his bedtime. You're hilarious. WNBA, I'm just going with what Coach says. He likes the Mercury to upset the Aces. So I'll just listen to Coach and say that's what he's got. Yeah, Freddie Peralta tomorrow. Freddie Peralta over his outs at home in the afternoon in Milwaukee. Hell yeah, let's do it. That number's sketchy low. Sketchy low. Very fishy. So that makes me a little nervous. But whatever. We're going to take advantage because some of these numbers are a little bit low because they think they're going to pull pitchers in case they get into trouble. So they're making up for that. So I'll say Freddie Peralta over his outs tomorrow. Then in the NFL, I'll definitely have some stuff in the propqueen.com newsletter. I'm going to put all my long list of NFL props going out on Sunday. Make sure to tune in. If you missed anything for that MLB stats and notes, I'm going to put it in the propqueen.com newsletter tomorrow. So all of those stats and information, all of the info on the players that are hot, the players that are not, the good matchups, the bad matchups. Once we have all the pitchers solidified for tomorrow, I'm going to put all of that in the propqueen.com newsletter. So you could definitely go subscribe, get all of that, my long list of NFL props for Sunday, giving them all out. Mid-Major Matt has his college football newsletter going out as well. So go to thepropqueen.com, see what you like, see what you need. If you missed anything, you also could get it for free and go back and watch all this at the YouTube page at Prop Queen Sports. I am like 15 minutes over today, but I hope that I gave you guys a lot of good information and Matt gave you good information to help you going into the weekend with all your bets. I'll also be on Last Call with the Wager Talk crew on Sunday. Time to go get some wine. Happy Friday to all. Good luck with all of your bets this weekend. See you on Last Call on Sunday and see you here at the Prop Queen Pod back on Monday. Good luck.